Hey, good morning, guys. I'm the Tech Prepper. Hope you're all doing well. I'm out here in the Tonto National Forest, and I needed a break from filming the digital series. So today we're going to talk about something that's been on my mind for a while, and that is the difference between ham radio operators and preppers. Now, before we talk about the differences, let's talk about three things I believe those two groups have in common. First, they're both willing to spend money on gear they love. For amateur radio operators, that's radios, and preppers, I think that's really firearms and tactical gear. Two, they both believe in the importance of communications. And three, they're both willing to throw out the rules if shit hits the fan, if it ever comes to it. So I think that's it in terms of the high level similarities. Let's talk about the differences. All right, let's keep it short and sweet. And today we're just going to focus on the differences between communications choices, and specifically gear and training. So let's start with gear first. So I think the biggest difference is that preppers are not willing to invest in the right communications gear in general. They will typically go out and buy a Baofeng UV5R and call it a day. So to take a quick firearms analogy, which firearm is best? Is it a 38 special snub nose? Is it a 22 rimfire? Is it a 308 rifle? Is it a 20 gauge shotgun or an AR-15? Well, obviously it depends on what your goals and objectives are, whether you want to conceal carry, whether you need it for self-defense, whether you're going to go bird hunting or engage a group of hostiles. Amateur radio is the same way. There are lots of different radios, lots of different antenna systems, lots of different capabilities in terms of how much output power you need, and it really is mission specific. All right, so let's keep the gear conversation aside for a future video. If you're interested in my thoughts on what type of gear is appropriate for different types of scenarios or mission objectives, let me know and I'll put some thought and make a video for you guys. To keep it high level, let's jump into training right now. And I find that amateur radio operators are willing to invest a lot of time in training, but preppers aren't. You have that new Baofeng UV5R, you take it out of the box, you plug it in and you charge it, and maybe you even go through the steps of programming it with a programming cable, and you think it's done. Well, there's a whole lot more that goes into training. One, it's knowing how to maintain that radio. Do you have a plan to power that radio if you don't have a grid tie? Do you know how to operate it without consulting the online manual? Do you know how to program it if you need to? Do you know how to contact someone that is in a position to help you if stuff goes sideways? Do you have a communications plan? So all of these things require some level of practice, and I get it. If shit hits the fan, we're going to throw the rule book out and get on the air. The difference is the amateur radio operators will know how to do that. They have established communities. They know exactly who to talk to on which watering holes. They know exactly how to navigate that scene. I'm pretty sure there's just going to be a bunch of chaos on the VHF, UHF frequencies with the Baofeng operators if they manage to remember to charge that Baofeng to begin with. So I'm not picking on you guys preppers. I really want to help you. So here are some tips I have for you. I really believe that training is key. And to do it, we need to train when times are good, and that requires getting licensed. So here in the US, that is the technician class license. My recommendation is get the Gordon West book. It's like 29 bucks. Get yourself a $25 Baofeng radio and study for your test. You know, give yourself a month, take it, and at least now you have the ability to experiment on simplex. That's basically just radio to radio communication over a few miles. It gives you the ability to check out the local repeaters in your area. That will open you up to a broader range of coverage. And there are a lot of other cool things you can do besides voice on simplex and repeaters for emergency communications. I've been covering a lot of stuff you can do with digital. Heck, I'm even talking about encryption, and we'll talk more about encryption. So can't do it when times are good, but you know what? All bets are off when stuff goes sideways. The other areas of training that are interesting once you get licensed, figure out how to program your radio, get on the air, there are lots of what we call nets, and these are scheduled events that either take place on a specific simplex frequency or on a repeater, and they give you a chance to get a feel for operating with a group of people, which absolutely is essential. And it also gives you a chance to build community, so you can start to identify other like-minded people and other people that are there to help you by name or by amateur radio call sign. All right, so once you've spent some time hanging out on the repeaters, getting a feel for how your radio works, who you can talk to, what that communication protocol is like, you may want to step it up and do some real-world scenario training. And the best way that I find is to get looped into public service events. We're fortunate here in Arizona. We've got the Maricopa County Communications Emergency Communication Group. And one of the things that we do to train is support local events like endurance races. And I love these because they typically have a mission objective. They typically deploy a handful of stations out into the field at various aid stations. So you have to be cognizant of not only your communications gear and your ability to work with other communicators, but your ability to self-support in the field, to pass traffic, and heck, you're even going to find yourself in times where you have to relay very critical information if there's an injury that comes through your station. The ability to self-support your gear for an entire day is also something you'll be exposed to. Like, how do I keep my radio gear from overheating or getting damaged by inclement weather? How do I keep it powered for a 16-hour event? How much water and gear do I need to go out 5 or 6 miles to staff myself at an aid station while still having comms gear? Which antennas are appropriate based on that terrain? So these are all things that I've learned, that I've talked about on the channel, and I believe it is the funnest aspect of doing practical hands-on emergency communications and training. And again, you can only do that if you're licensed. All right, so maybe public service events are not for you, but here's another activity you can do, and that's running your own events. This past weekend, I had 4 guys come over to the house. We sat down and we came up with a fake mission objective, wrote a comms plan, and even a field manual to boot. And we carried out some digital exercises out here in the Tonto National Forest. And it gave us a chance to spread out, test all of our support gear, and test our comms equipment, pass traffic. We ran into a few snags, but that's how we learned. And we pretty much had it dialed in by the end of the day. And we're going to take all of those learnings into our next exercise. And I got to tell you, the equipment we used was freaking badass. We were running the CF20 Ultra Rugged Tough Books for digital communications. We were running man packs. And this is why, when you start to look at the gear that's available outside of those Baofeng UV5R radios, you may consider selling a rifle or two. All right, guys, at any rate, this is just the first kind of video to plant the seed with the preppers out there. And if you really want more guidance and maybe some 101s on which radios should I look at for various mission objectives, let me know down below. I am happy to help you out and put some real thought there. But with that said, guys, I got to go run to work. I'm the Tech Prepper. Be strong, be safe, and be prepared.